Good afternoon. Today is March 6th. My name is Michael B., and I will be your host as we continue our discussion on the anatomy of the modern romance scam. First, I would like to thank those of you who are joining me to listen to these podcasts. We all have limited time, and time is one of our most valuable assets. So thank you for investing your time with me to learn more about romance scams, more graphically known as pig butchering, and what I refer to sometime somewhat less graphically as the attachment override model. Before we get started, I'd like to reiterate once again that I'm doing these podcasts for awareness, education, and hopefully the prevention of engaging in one of these relationships. Because as these scams progress, the potential for loss grows greater over time, sometimes to the point where it's complete and utter destruction if a person remains involved in a romance scam that runs its full course. Ask me how I know. Unfortunately, I do speak from firsthand personal experience of just how devastating this can become and is. The detonation of your life brings consequences you never imagined and never weighed in to the balance when the relationship began. You only discover these things after the scam is complete and you're left with dealing with the fallout. And it is emotionally and financially severe. Every time you think you may have reached the bottom, someplace where you can put your feet down and try and emerge from this situation, um, things just continue to go deeper. At times, it feels like it's almost never ending. You get another notice from the bank, you get another notice from the IRS, you get another notice that, hey, your house was paid off and now it's not because of something that you did. And by the way, you owe us several $1,000s every month for your house payment. All right. And so, yeah, it's painful, very painful. And that's not even all of it, right? The pain comes from the relationships that you have damaged, the relationships with your business partners, with your family, with your friends, and most importantly, with your significant other, your wife, if you have one, and they decide to stay with you. All right, so it's quite painful. So that's the other part that of these podcasts that I wanted to discuss with you. Sometimes I will lose my composure, all right, because it is quite painful to continue to talk about this situation. I am just hoping that I save you or your loved ones from the same kind of suffering, and I use that word intentionally, that my family and I are going through because of the things that I have done. All right. And I just want to let you know that the deeper you get into these relationships, the more exquisite the pain and suffering will be when you finally get yourself out or somebody else intervenes and you are found out. And I use that intentionally as well. So these podcasts are for you. And I hope that you don't think that I'm talking down to you. I am not. Okay. I am just sharing information. And unfortunately, it's firsthand information in the hopes, again, that you will not be involved in this, or if you are, that you will get out as soon as possible. And I hope that this discussion or these discussions will help you recognize the mechanics of these scams, how they form, how they develop over time, how you can recognize them early enough to re-engage your rational thinking and just get out. Okay. So I want to add something that's equally important here. And what I'm describing in these episodes is how scams tend to work structurally. My experience may not be identical to what you are experiencing. The conversations might be a little bit different. The personalities may be a little bit different. The timing might be a little bit different. But what I want to make clear is that if the pieces of the puzzle are consistent and these scams follow, they do follow recognizable patterns. If you find yourself listening to this series and thinking, well, that's not exactly what's happening to me, but parts of it feel familiar, even halfway familiar. And I've discussed it before. If there's even one puzzle piece that falls into place, you need to take a serious look about who you're talking with on the other end of this Telegram or WhatsApp or whatever medium you're using to communicate with each other. Again, you should take that seriously and look at it seriously. Because when the pieces of the puzzle start fitting together, there's a very good chance that you're looking at a romance scam. If that's the case, again, the simplest move, and it's kind of one of my watch sayings, or watch phrases, if you will, is just delete, block, and walk. Okay, delete the message, block the person, and walk away. You're conditioned from the time that you're, a child to to not be rude, to respond. And believe me, they know that. These operators, they know that. Okay, they're trained in that. That's why their messages are open ended. How are you today? I'm just looking for some new friends. Are you looking for new friends? It requires a response, all right? And believe me, delete it. You're not being rude. And that 30 seconds of action can save you years of heartache. Just, I can't stress that enough. And when you're involved in it, it's difficult to recognize it because you are emotionally involved. And so, with that said, let's move into episode 6, and I want to do that. I didn't want to leave this yet because there's a subtle change, but it's very important to recognize that change. And again, I am, please don't think I'm talking down to you. I'm not. I got victimized on this, and I'm just trying to be clear. I'm trying to prevent that. Okay, I'm trying to help. I truly am. So, but if you notice as we've been going through this series, hopefully you begin to realize that I'm building towards this particular point because it's very pivotal. Pivotal, all right. And we've touched on pieces of this along the way, but we haven't addressed it directly yet, and we need to, because this is the moment when attachment turns into isolation. Earlier in this relationship, you may feel yourself becoming emotionally invested, and you are. In a sense, you're taking the bait. Okay. But at this stage, when it's going a little bit deeper, something different happens. The hook is actually getting set. They are putting their feet in the stirrups and they're reefing back on the rod. And the dangerous part is this time it doesn't hurt. You don't feel it. You don't recognize it because it feels like love. Okay. In my case, I remember saying something like, Kat, we almost conversed like we're lovers. And the immediate response came back, Michael, we are lovers. At that moment, something subtle but very important happened. The relationship was no longer hypothetical. it became defined. And once a relationship is defined that way, the floodgates open for more intimate exchanges. And believe me, they came. All right. The conversations begin to feel deeply personal, very romantic, sexual, not sometimes sexual. They will be sexual. I can guarantee that. And that's often reciprocated. All right. Many times you will not even be the instigator, but they will come your way and you will respond to those. And it begins to feel completely normal. Like with something you started out with online as a friend and has now become online love, and now it's an online lover. So, do you see the difference? In episode 5, we talked about it becoming an online love. And in this episode, we're talking about now it's an online lover. There is full intimacy, and it continues to deepen and to grow. Okay. Now, you may never have intended for this relationship to go in this direction or this far, but it did. And that's all by design. In my case, I had no idea that's where this was going. I could feel it at some points in time, right? And I would like, hey, you know what, Mike, you're married. Uh, and you're sleeping right next to your wife, and you're sending these texts back and forth to this person who is quite honestly just as important as my significant other. Okay. So yeah, it's embarrassing, and it's hard to admit that. It's hard to speak to that on a podcast publicly, but that's exactly what's happening and what happened. And again, it's all by design. And once again, the hook set is not painful, but this hook is getting set, and it's strategic, and there's a reason why. Okay. And we've already talked that there might be occasional twinges of guilt, but your emotion and that love and this relationship will override logic. All right. It's going to. And the messages are going to be intoxicating, quite honestly. Okay. I love you, baby. No one's ever made me feel like this. You understand me better than anyone. And then the language begins to deepen even more and go into a deeper kind of intimacy. Hey, babe, I dreamed about you last night. I wish you were here beside me right now. I came into your room and I stood beside your bed, and then you let me in. And I can almost feel your hands on me. Now, it's just dopamine after dopamine after dopamine. These messages feel powerful, they feel personal, and they feel real. And before long, the relationship begins to feel emotionally and physically intimate. It does become that way. And even though the two of you may not actually have ever met, and there's a good chance you haven't, and that's another red flag, and we can kind of deviate quickly on that. You might even set some, hey, let's meet here. Let's meet in Denver. I'm in Seattle. You're in New York. Let's pick a midpoint, Denver, and let's go. But you know what? Something's always going to come up. Oh, I couldn't make it because I had a business meeting. All right. Okay, fine. Well, let's set up something else. Okay, I'd love to. So you said it. Never happens. Okay. Because this person, chances are, they're not real. And this relationship is not real. So that's another red flag. You try and meet, or you try and discuss, or you set up a video call, and that video call, after 10 minutes, I have to go because AI can't hold that call that long, right? So that's a red flag. Ask them to stand up, to turn around, because AI can't support that either. All right. And while we're having this video call, why are you always at your makeup table? Okay. Why are you always sitting in the same spot? Well, I know that you have to go and that you're putting your quote unquote putting your face on, but every video call that we have, you're in the same place. All right. Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. Please, please pay attention to those. You're going to see red flags flying all over. I swear that you will. And you're going to walk right by them. You are just going to, oh, I see it, but you know what? I love this person. They love me. We're making plans together, big plans. And we're going to make big money. We are making big money. So we can afford these things. And so I can't stress that enough, please. The flags will fly. The flags will fly. And that's why I call it the attachment override model, because the emotions are going to override the intellect. Please pay attention to your intellect. Please separate yourself from the situation. All right. So that you can make an informed decision and realize this for what it is. And it's just not true. And it's just not real. In my situation, after this was exposed and I came clean with my family, my spouse said something that was extremely painful, but absolutely truthful. What she told me was, you were having an emotional affair with this person. And you know what's really sad, Michael? They weren't even real. And my wife is one of the most understanding persons on the planet, obviously, because she should have put me out on the front door and said, we're done, see you later. But she didn't, and we're trying to regroup on that. But that's for another discussion. But what I really want to let you know is that she was right. Okay. Even when I said no, that's not what was happening. That's exactly what was happening. But the tragic part of that is that I'm desperately in love with my spouse. Okay. I wasn't looking for anything. Nothing. I had a big nest egg. We were doing fine. We were doing great. We're getting to the point of retirement. Well, can't do that now because of what I did. And that is one of the things I'm trying to save you from. Please don't make the same mistakes I made. Do not do that. All right. So we touched on some of this in the 5th episode. Okay. But we could not leave this stage yet, because at this point, you're still being groomed. You'll be groomed the whole relationship. All right. And the discussions and the relationship is being shaped. All right. So this is going to become the first person that you talk to in the morning. It's all going to be by text usually. And it's going to be the last person that you talk to at night. Again, mostly by text, probably. And it's not going to be every other day. It's going to become every day. They strategically become the most important person in your life. And don't be surprised to see messages like, please don't tell anyone about us. They just wouldn't understand. And I can't believe I found someone like you. I wasn't even looking. And this feels like destiny. And I've never been this compatible with anyone. Okay? So what's different from what we previously discussed is this. Before, they were positioning themselves to become important in your daily routine, slowly weaving themselves into the fabric of your life. Now the difference is they've achieved it. Whether you recognize it or admit it, you'll likely think you're in love with this person. Okay? Which is why you begin protecting this relationship. It's why you no longer hand your phone to anyone. Okay? Which is why it's always in reach. You reach for your phone the first thing in the morning, and it's the last thing you put down at night. At that moment, the isolation phase is complete. The relationship is fully established emotionally, romantically, psychologically. From the scammer's perspective, the first objective has been achieved. Trust has been built, emotional attachment is firmly in place, and the relationship now feels real. This is what I refer to as relational exclusivity. Okay? Recognize what has happened. Please do not miss that. All right? They are very likely the most important person in your life. If they are not, they are of equal importance. And this may, again, not have been by your design, but it was absolutely part of their plan. At this stage, you will only see the person who is now your online lover and absolute confidant. But let me be very clear here. If you want to preserve your family relationships, your marriage, your finances, your nest egg, your business relationships, and even your identity and your peace, your personal peace, run. All right? Run. I'm just going to be very blunt. Turn the other way and run like hell. All right? Delete that person. Block that person and walk. Because you can't see who this person it really is. You might think you know because maybe you have done a video chat, but it's probably a bot or it's somebody involved with this syndicate overseas, but you're not seeing them for what they really are. And I can tell you what they are, and it's one word. They're a predator. Their gaze is fixed directly on you, and the tip of their tail is slowly twitching. Now, I don't know if you've ever watched that on a special on TV, but what that means is you're bait. Okay. You are bait. And this person is ready to take everything that you have, everything that you are. Be prepared to lose it. If you continue down this phase and down this path, just be prepared to lose everything that you hold dear. Okay? So you're being groomed. Again, through the whole time. This person won't forget anything. They remember everything about you. And you're being groomed and manipulated the whole time. And now you're ready for the next step. And in the next episode, we'll talk about just exactly what that next step almost always is. I appreciate you staying with me. Please stay out of trouble with this. Recognize it for what it is. Recognize that it's epidemic. Recognize that it never gets talked about because we're all secure and we think that we're not going to be victimized by this because we have the knowledge. It only takes one response, okay? One response to one innocuous message of, hi, it's me, how are you? Hey, I'm just looking for new friends. And you're in serious, serious danger. Thank you for staying with me. I hope you'll continue to listen to the rest of my podcasts. I have several that are planned, and we'll continue to discuss this as we go through it. Thank you again for your time, and you have a good night.